No one was prepared for what entered the lecture hall that day. The doors hissed open with a mechanical whine, and every head turned, some with idle curiosity, others with instinctual dread. When the being stepped inside, the air shifted. It was like someone had punctured the atmosphere with raw threat. 10 feet tall, covered in barbed quills that glistened under the overhead lights. For gleaming black eyes that moved independently, scanning the room with eerie calm. Its gait was silent, like death given form and sentience. Even the air itself seemed to recede from its presence. A few cadets in the front row recoiled. One of them, a delicate-winged Sarates student, let out a soft gasp and dropped her tablet. It shattered. No one dared move to help her pick it up. Standing behind the beast was Instructor Valteran, a hardened Brolock war veteran whose left side was almost entirely synthetic from wars centuries old. And even he, battle-scarred and half-machine, stood with an unusual stiffness. "Cadets," Valteran began, voice low and grave. "You are in the presence of a Krexel warden." A ripple of fear moved through the class. Krexel. That name was legend. Not the kind born from pride, but the kind whispered around fire pits by species who still remembered what extinction smelled like. The Krexel were apex predators, born on a planet that devoured itself 100 times and survived. They were not known for diplomacy. They were not known for restraint. They were known for surviving and making sure no one else did. "I brought this warden here today," Valteran continued, "to show you what a true predator looks like. What real biological superiority means. Too many of you," he glanced across the class, "have forgotten that war is not about codes or treaties. It is about who can end whom first." Silence followed. And then a chair scraped. In the back of the room, someone shifted, calmly, unbothered. Not with fear, but with vague interest. The figure leaned forward, resting his arms on the table. A human, skin tanned from exposure. Hair cut short. Face unreadable. No translator device on his neck. He didn't need it. His name was Reed Carter, and he'd only arrived 2 weeks ago from Earth. Most of the class hadn't bothered learning his name. He was, after all, from a death world. And no one took Deathworlders seriously until they had to. The Krexel warden turned slightly, as if sensing something different. For black eyes locked onto the human, and the room held its breath. Reed stared back. Valteran noticed the tension and gave a faint smirk. "Ah yes, our lone human. I almost forgot," he said, clearly not meaning it. "Perhaps this will be educational for you." Reed didn't move, didn't blink, just asked calmly, "Does it speak?" A few cadets flinched. You weren't supposed to address a Krexel directly, not unless you wanted to lose something. The warden let out a low, chittering growl. Its voice was layered, like stones grinding under molten steel. "I speak, primate. You should be silent." Reed raised an eyebrow. That wasn't very educational. Someone in the front row coughed, stifling either a laugh or a gasp. Valteran's face twitched. "Watch your tone, human." But Reed didn't seem to hear him. His eyes were still locked on the warden, analyzing. "Just wondering," Reed continued, "what exactly it's supposed to teach us. How to posture. Or how to lose all your wars so badly you end up as cautionary tales in cadet classrooms." The entire room froze. The Krexel warden's muscles tensed. Valteran took a step forward. "You will apologize now." Reed stood. He wasn't tall, not compared to the towering warden, but there was a weight to him, a calm readiness, like someone who'd been in far too many fights to bother pretending. "I've read your files," Reed said, addressing the warden directly. "Your people killed the innocent, turned nursery moons into hunting grounds. You think that makes you dangerous?" He took a single step forward. "No, it makes you predictable." The warden snarled, a vibration that shook the metal grates. "You know what we did," Reed said quietly. "To our own predators?" The warden lunged. It moved like lightning, claws outstretched, faster than any creature its size should have been allowed to move. Students screamed. Someone dove under a desk. Valteran reached for his restraint baton, but it was too late. The Krexel's claws slashed down, and Reed was already gone. He stepped aside with a smooth pivot, like water slipping between rocks, and delivered a blow to the warden's side. Not a punch, not with brute force, just a quick strike under the rib, into a nerve point that no alien had ever known humans understood. The warden hissed, stumbling. Reed stepped past its leg and grabbed a tendon just below the knee joint, twisted. The warden collapsed to one side, growling in rage and confusion. Reed didn't press the attack. He just stepped back, hands lowered, face calm. The room was dead silent. Even Valteron was frozen. Reed finally spoke again. You want to talk about predators? Fine. Let's talk. My ancestors hunted in packs, chased prey for hours without tiring. We learned to outthink, outendure, outkill. We didn't get faster. We got smarter. We turned sticks into spears, rocks into blades. We wiped out everything that tried to eat us. The Krexel snarled, struggling to rise. We didn't survive our death world. We tamed it. Reed's eyes narrowed, his voice steady. You brought a predator to class. But I was born on a planet where everything's a predator. And we're the apex because we decided we would be. The Krexel lunged again, slower this time, more cautious. Reed moved in, stepped under its arm, and drove his palm into its throat. The warden staggered back, coughing. Its claws slashed wildly, but Reed was already behind it. One strike to the back of the neck, another to the base of the spine. The warden collapsed, wheezing. Reed knelt beside it, voice low. You don't scare me. You never did. Silence. The entire class stared. Valteron's hand dropped from his weapon. He looked at Reed like he was seeing something else. Something they hadn't accounted for. Return it to its cell, Reed said without looking up. Lesson's over. It wasn't a request. Valteron signaled the guards, 4 of them, who entered and hesitantly dragged the unconscious Krexel warden away. No one spoke, not even the brave ones. Reed sat back down and picked up his datapad. Calm. Casual. The Sarati girl in the front row whispered, What are you? Reed didn't look up. Human. The lecture hall remained frozen in disbelief long after the Krexel warden was dragged away. Whispers rippled through the ranks like shockwaves. The predator was supposed to be untouchable, and yet the human had not just stood his ground, but dominated the encounter with an ease that defied their expectations. Instructor Valteron finally broke the silence, his voice strained but steady. Cadets, let this be a lesson beyond what you have read in textbooks. Strength is not always raw power. Sometimes it is the mind, the will, and the unyielding resolve. Heads nodded, though some faces still betrayed their confusion. The human, Reed Carter, was an enigma, a relic from a world most had dismissed as primitive, a death world where survival was not just a game, but a relentless war against extinction itself. The human did not seem bothered by the attention. He flipped open his datapad, scrolling through notes and schematics as if nothing had happened. But the room was buzzing with questions, curiosity, and fear. One brave cadet, a slender iron with iridescent scales shimmering under the lights, raised her voice. Human, if I may ask, how did you learn to fight like that? Your moves were unlike any we've studied. No species we know matches your speed and precision. Reed looked up, his eyes calm but intense. My planet doesn't offer many choices. Every day is a fight for survival. You either learn to move fast, think fast, or you don't live to see the next sunrise. The class murmured in awe. That's Deathworlder training for you, Reed added with a slight smile, where predators are everywhere, from the insects beneath your feet to the sky above. You learn to be a hunter and the hunted all at once. Valteron nodded approvingly. Exactly why we brought him here. To remind you what survival means. But Reed was just getting started. He tapped the screen, bringing up holographic images of his home planet. Dense jungles cloaked in perpetual twilight. Massive carnivorous beasts roaming vast swamps. Poisonous plants that could kill with a single touch. Earth is a death world, as you call it, Reed explained. And every human that comes from there carries that heritage. It's not just about brute strength. It's about adaptation, innovation, and an indomitable spirit. Suddenly, a buzz interrupted the lesson. Valteron glanced at his communicator, urgent messages flooding in from the Academy's security network. The doors sealed instantly. Status report, Valteron commanded. A junior officer appeared on the holoscreen, breathless. Sir, sensors detect multiple unidentified ships approaching the Academy's perimeter. They're not responding to hails. The room tensed again. Alien cadets exchanged nervous glances. Valteron's eyes narrowed. Prepare for possible engagement. Reed, stay alert. The human simply nodded. Within minutes, the Academy's main viewing screens flickered to life, showing sleek, black ships sliding through space with predatory precision. These aren't friendly, Valterun said grimly. They could be mercenaries, bounty hunters, or worse, a raiding party. Reed's jaw tightened. Deathworlders learn one thing early: never run from a fight. The warning klaxons blared as the alien ships closed in. Defense turrets powered up, shields hummed, and cadets scrambled to their stations. The classroom lesson abruptly shifted from theory to reality. Reed, Valterun barked, "You're with my squadron. Get to the armory." Without hesitation, Reed followed, weaving through corridors filled with tension and hurried footsteps. The academy had been built to withstand attacks, but this was the first time in decades that such a direct threat had emerged. In the armory, Reed's presence caught the eye of the weapons officer, a bulky Rakthar named Growl. "Human, you're going to need this." He handed over a custom pulse rifle, lighter than standard models, but packed with cutting-edge tech. "Thanks," Reed said, slinging it over his shoulder. "Let's see what your academy can really do." The cadets formed up quickly, a mix of species united by urgency. Reed took position beside Valterun in the command module. The alien ships closed in, and space erupted in chaos. Laser beams tore through the void, missiles streaked like deadly fireflies, and the academy's defense grid fired back with relentless precision. Reed's pulse rifle hummed as he took down enemy drones attempting to breach the perimeter. His movements were fluid, almost effortless, adapting to zero gravity with the ease of someone born in harsher conditions. "We're holding them back," Valterun said, eyes glued to tactical displays. "But they're testing our defenses. This won't be a simple skirmish." Suddenly, one of the alien ships launched a devastating strike directly at the Academy's main energy core. The blast shook the entire structure. "Core integrity falling," warned a cadet. "If that goes down, we lose power." Reed's mind raced. "I'm going in." Valterun looked at him sharply. "What?" "No, that's a suicide run." "No," Reed replied firmly. "If they destroy the core, this place falls. We can't let that happen." Without waiting for permission, Reed grabbed a compact grav chute and sprinted toward the hangar bay. The rest of the squadron covered him as he boarded an old but reliable interceptor. The hangar doors opened, and Reed shot out into the chaos of space. The alien ships swarmed, but Reed's instincts guided him like a predator stalking prey. He dodged missile fire, weaving through enemy formations, closing in on the lead ship. With calculated precision, Reed launched a volley of pulse torpedoes. The enemy ship erupted in flames, drifting helplessly. The other ships faltered, regrouping. Reed's bold strike turned the tide. Back at the academy, cadets cheered as the enemy fleet retreated. Valterun approached Reed as he landed, respect clear in his voice. "You didn't just bring the fight to them. You made them think twice." Reed shrugged. "I did what I had to." The academy had witnessed something new that day. Not just a predator, but a human Deathworlder who refused to be intimidated. The question on everyone's lips now was no longer what Reed was, but what he was capable of. And that answer was far from simple. The aftermath of the attack left the academy buzzing for days. Reed Carter was no longer just the human. He had become a symbol, a living testament to what survival meant beyond the safety of their sterile classrooms and holodecks. Cadets from every species approached him, some out of curiosity, others out of genuine respect, and a few out of suspicion. But Reed didn't mind. He was used to being an anomaly, the odd one out, the predator among prey. Instructor Valterun called an emergency debrief in the main hall, where the academy's most elite gathered. "Today we saw the true value of survival instincts," Valterun announced, eyes sweeping over the crowd. "Cadets, Earth is not just a planet. It is a crucible, and Reed Carter carries the spirit of that crucible with him." He gestured toward Reed, who stood quietly, arms crossed, watching the crowd. Valterun's voice lowered. "But survival isn't enough. We must learn how to fight, not just physically, but mentally. To anticipate, adapt, and overcome. Reed will now teach you what the textbooks do not." A murmur rippled through the audience. Reed himself felt a mix of pride and unease. Teaching was not what he expected, but if it helped these aliens understand the realities of life on a death world, it was worth it. The next day, the training arena was transformed into a battlefield simulator. Holographic creatures from Earth's deadliest ecosystems flickered into existence, their snarls echoing off the walls. Reed stood before a group of skeptical cadets, ready to break down the myth of alien superiority. Look, Reed began. These predators don't just attack. They observe. They wait for weakness, for mistakes. You can't just be strong. You have to be smarter, faster, and willing to do whatever it takes. He demonstrated a series of combat moves, agile, brutal, yet precise, blending martial arts with guerrilla tactics honed from years in hostile environments. Cadet Jar, a towering Vrel with 4 arms, attempted to mimic the moves but struggled with the fluidity Reed displayed. Your style? It is unlike anything we have seen. It is unpredictable. That's the point, Reed replied with a grin. If they can't read you, they can't fight you. Days turned into weeks as Reed's lessons reshaped the Academy's approach. The cadets trained harder, their skills sharpening under his relentless drills. But more than that, they began to understand the mindset of a Deathworlder, a predator forged by unrelenting danger, where failure meant extinction. One evening, Reed sat in the mess hall, nursing a steaming cup of synthesized protein. Across from him, Clara, a quiet, blue-scaled scholar from the aquatic planet Xenar, watched him with curious eyes. "Human," she said softly, "how do you carry such weight without breaking?" Reed looked up, surprised by the question. "What do you mean?" "The burden of survival," she explained. "Your planet, it sounds merciless. Yet you walk through it like it's nothing." Reed sighed. "It's not nothing. Every day, you choose to keep going. You learn to carry the pain and fear because stopping means death. You develop a stubbornness that's almost stupid, but it keeps you alive." Clara nodded slowly. "I see now why you inspire us. You teach not just with your body, but with your heart." Reed smiled faintly. "Guess that's the real Deathworlder lesson. Not just fighting, but never giving up." But peace was short-lived. One night, alarms shattered the quiet. The Academy's perimeter sensors detected an infiltration. A stealth ship had slipped past their defenses. Valtaran assembled an emergency strike team. Reed was summoned again. "This is no drill," Valtaran warned. "We suspect hostile forces aiming to capture or kill key cadets. We cannot let this breach compromise everything." Reed's pulse quickened. This was the real test. The strike team moved through shadowed corridors, weapons drawn, senses sharp. The stealth intruders were fast, ruthless, and equipped with technology that even the Academy hadn't seen before. In the dim light of the maintenance tunnels, Reed's survival instincts kicked in. He led the team, moving silently, reading every sound, every movement. Suddenly, a figure darted ahead, a shadow with bladed arms, a cybernetic predator far more lethal than any cadet. "Hostile Krexel operative," whispered one of the cadets. Reed didn't hesitate. He charged, grappling the attacker with brute force and cunning maneuvers. The battle was fierce, blades clashing, bodies tumbling, energy crackling in the tight space. Reed's training on Earth had taught him to use every environment to his advantage. He twisted, slamming the Krexel into the wall, then threw a smoke grenade, obscuring their combat. When the smoke cleared, the Krexel was unconscious. The rest of the strike team secured the area, capturing other intruders. Back in the command center, Valtaran was grim but impressed. "You acted decisively. Your instincts saved lives." Reed nodded, exhausted but alert. Word of the infiltration spread quickly, and the Academy's leaders decided it was time to share Reed's story beyond the campus walls. A holo broadcast was arranged, a documentary-style transmission showcasing Earth's Deathworlder, the human who survived impossible odds and fought alongside alien warriors. Reed sat for the interview, calm but honest. "When I first arrived here, I thought I was the odd one out," he said. "But I realized survival isn't about where you come from. It's about how hard you're willing to fight for your place. Earth made me a predator. This Academy taught me to be more." The broadcast reached countless planets, sparking debate, admiration, and even fear. Some questioned how a human could match or surpass their most elite fighters. Others saw hope, proof that even the most dangerous planets could produce warriors of unparalleled skill and determination. But Reed's journey was far from over. New challenges awaited, political intrigue, alien rivalries, and ancient threats lurking beyond known space. His presence at the Academy was a constant reminder that the galaxy was changing, and that survival required more than strength or technology. It demanded heart, resilience, and the willingness to face the unknown without fear. And Reed Carter was ready. The days after the infiltration were tense, the Academy on high alert. Security protocols were tightened, and patrols doubled around the sprawling compound nestled in the heart of the star system's remote asteroid belt. Reed Carter found himself thrust further into the limelight, not just as a survival instructor, but as a key figure in the Academy's defense strategy. The administration, once skeptical of the human Deathworlder, now sought his input on security measures and combat readiness. Reed welcomed the responsibility. It was another battlefield, and he intended to master it. One morning, Reed was summoned to the Academy's council chamber, a grand room lined with glowing sigils and alien tapestries from countless worlds. The council was composed of leaders from various species, each one formidable in their own right. Counselor Veshner, a tall and stoic insectoid with multifaceted eyes, addressed him directly. "Human Reed Carter, your actions during the breach have proven invaluable. However, there is greater danger approaching. Intelligence reports indicate that the Krexel forces are mobilizing a full-scale assault to seize control of this sector. We must prepare." Reed nodded, eyes sharp. "Then we train harder, and we fight smarter. They won't catch us off guard again." Counselor Rathak, a hulking reptilian warrior, growled, "Your methods differ from ours, but we acknowledge the effectiveness. We will follow your lead for the upcoming defense drills." It was a turning point. Reed's unorthodox tactics, born in the crucible of Earth's harsh environments, were becoming the foundation for the Academy's new doctrine. Reed threw himself into preparing the cadets. Every day, the training intensified. They practiced rapid ambushes, guerrilla warfare, and survival skills in hostile terrain simulations. His closest students, a diverse group representing several species, absorbed his lessons eagerly. Among them was Azel, a lithe and cunning Zelnari scout whose natural agility rivaled even Reed's. The bond between them grew, mutual respect forged in sweat and battle. One afternoon, during a particularly grueling obstacle course designed to mimic a volatile volcanic environment, Reed noticed Azel struggling with one segment, a narrow ridge over simulated molten lava. "Keep your balance, Azel," Reed advised. "Don't just rely on speed. Use your instincts. Feel the ridge beneath your feet. Anticipate the shifts." Azel paused, closing her eyes for a moment. When she moved again, it was deliberate, careful, a predator stalking prey. She made it across flawlessly. "Not bad for a human," she teased, a sly smile on her lips. Reed laughed. "Not bad for a Zelnari either." As the days slipped by, intelligence updates warned of a massive Krexel fleet heading toward the Academy's system. The atmosphere was charged with urgency and dread. It was clear the Krexel intended to crush the Academy and anyone standing in their way. Reed and the Academy commanders devised a plan, a combination of stealth defense and guerrilla strikes designed to disrupt the Krexel supply lines and scatter their forces. The night before the attack, Reed stood on the observation deck, gazing at the distant stars. The Krexel fleet was a dark cloud on the horizon, its shadow stretching over the galaxy like a coming storm. Clara joined him silently. "Do you think we can survive this?" Reed's jaw tightened. "We have to. Failure isn't an option. We're not just fighting for this Academy. We're fighting for every species who believes in peace and strength." The battle began at dawn. Krexel warships erupted from hyperspace, their engines roaring like wild beasts. The Academy's defenses activated, energy shields flared, and turret batteries opened fire. Reed led a squadron of elite fighters on swift hit-and-run raids, weaving through asteroid fields and debris to strike the enemy's weak points. Explosions lit up the void, the air thick with the scent of burning metal and ozone. In the chaos, Reed's instincts were razor-sharp. He moved like a shadow, striking first and vanishing before retaliation. His cadets followed his lead with fierce determination, their confidence bolstered by his presence. But the Krexel had anticipated their tactics. A trap was sprung in a dense nebula cloud, a deadly labyrinth of electromagnetic storms and debris. Reed's squadron was caught in an ambush. Ships were disabled, fighters lost in the swirling chaos. Reed fought to keep his team together, but they were outnumbered and outgunned. Just when hope seemed lost, reinforcements arrived. A squadron of human warships led by Commander Elena Vasquez, Reed's old comrade from Earth. Thought you might need a hand. Elena's voice crackled over comms. With the human fleet's arrival, the tide turned. Coordinated strikes shattered the Krexel ambush, allowing Reed and his squadron to regroup and push back. The combined forces inflicted heavy losses on the Krexel, forcing their retreat. The Academy survived, but the cost was high. Reed walked through the damaged halls, the scars of battle visible everywhere. He found Clara tending to the wounded, her gentle touch bringing comfort. "We did what we had to," Reed said quietly. Clara nodded. "But the war is far from over." Reed looked toward the stars, determination blazing in his eyes. "We'll be ready." The battle had changed the Academy, and Reed. He was no longer just a survival instructor. He was a leader, a symbol of resilience in a galaxy that threatened to tear itself apart. And as the Krexel forces regrouped and prepared their next move, Reed knew one thing for certain. The Predator from Earth was only getting started. The victory at the Academy was hard-won, but temporary. Reed Carter knew that the Krexel wouldn't abandon their quest for domination so easily. The war was just beginning. In the weeks following the battle, the Academy transformed into a fortress. Reinforcements arrived from allied systems, and the cadets trained relentlessly. Reed's role grew beyond instructor and warrior. He became a mentor, a strategist, and a symbol of hope for a galaxy teetering on the edge of chaos. One evening, as the Academy's leaders gathered to plan their next move, a distress signal arrived from the nearby planet Rythel, a vital trade hub under siege by Krexel forces. Counselor Veshner's eyes narrowed. "If the Krexel seize Rythel, our supply lines will be cut. We must act swiftly." Reed stepped forward. "I'll lead the strike team. We hit fast and hard, disrupt their control, and buy time." There was no debate. Reed's leadership was trusted. The mission to Rythel was perilous. Flying through turbulent atmosphere, Reed's squadron dodged Krexel patrols and anti-air defenses. On the ground, the fight was brutal. Reed moved with the lethal grace of a Deathworld predator, silent, deadly, and relentless. The alien landscape was harsh, filled with jagged rocks and toxic mists, but Reed thrived in the danger. His team sabotaged enemy supply depots, freed captive civilians, and dismantled Krexel command nodes. During a fierce firefight, Reed came face-to-face with the Krexel warlord who had masterminded the Academy's attack, a towering, scarred warrior known as Krosthal. The battle was savage. Blades clashed, energy blasts lit the battlefield, and each combatant pushed beyond limits. Reed's instincts and training proved superior. With one final, precise strike, he disarmed Krosthal and forced his surrender. The victory at Rythel was a turning point. News of the human Deathworlder's courage and cunning spread like wildfire, rallying allies and striking fear into enemies. But Reed understood the price. War changed everything. Friends lost, alliances tested, and the weight of command heavy on his shoulders. Back at the Academy, Reed stood before the graduating class. "You've all faced darkness and danger," he said. "But remember, survival is only the beginning. True strength lies in the will to protect, to lead, and to fight for a future worth living." The cadets cheered, their spirits unbreakable. Reed looked to the stars, knowing his journey was far from over. The galaxy was vast, full of threats and wonders. But one thing was certain: the Predator from Earth would never back down. He was ready to face whatever came next.